Oh my goodness. This is probably one of my favorite things about Norway. There's so many amazing things about Norway. But one of the things I think is just fascinating is the dialects there. So Norwegian, of course, is a very beautiful language. Oh, it is so beautiful. And interestingly, so it actually is Danish, kind of. Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of history there. But basically, Norwegian is very close to Danish because it was Danish in the 1800s. Like, Norwegian pretty much was taken from Denmark. But that was more just in the main cities, like Oslo or, I don't know, probably just Oslo, really. I don't know. But there were all these other little places out in the boonies, of course, of Norway, which are, kind of like the countryside, and they had dialects. So every neighborhood you go into in Norway has a different dialect. There's so many, and they're all influenced by these different factors. So Oslo is kind of the pure dialect. It's what you learn when you go to Norway, or what usually people learn when they go to Norway. It's called bokmål. And it basically just means it's just the written way to say things. It's like the official way to speak Norwegian. And it's very pretty. This is the dialect that most people think of when they hear Norwegian, because it's the, very up and down and very emotive, very, just very proper and very beautiful. And that's kind of like the Oslo dialect, and that area down south. Here's actually kind of a little makeshift map of Norway. So down here we have Oslo, and that's like the east coast. And so here in Oslo and the surrounding area, that's more so of the Oslo dialect. But then when you get out to over down here, or actually just anywhere except for there, you have like entirely different languages. So if you travel down here, down this way at the tip of Norway, this is Kristiansand, and this has a beautiful dialect. Their R's are different from Oslo, and they just say things differently. They have different words for things, and it sounds really pretty. It kind of sounds like a cat talking to you, in my opinion. Yeah. And then if you travel up around this way, you have Stavanger and Bergen and all these other places. And the west coast, which is Stavanger and Bergen and these Ålesund. These places have a very distinct dialects. Bergen dialect has more, they have scarred R's, so it's a very harsh R. Stavanger is even more so. It's a very, very harsh R. I can't do it, but it sounds really pretty when they're talking. And also, along the west coast, they tend to speak more of what is known as nynorsk. And nynorsk is like New Norwegian. So, and that's a whole history by itself. But basically this guy went around Norway and he collected all these different dialects, and he decided, hey, we're going to go back to the original Norwegian. And so he made up this language out of all the dialects, and that's nynorsk. And so Stavanger and Bergen, they're kind of a mix of these different dialects. And of course, when you go out in the fjords, they just get tenfold crazier, and they're hard to understand if you're an outsider like me coming into this country and learning, bokmål, right? So Oslo dialect, and then you go over here and you're like, whoa, what are you saying? It's just a different language. And actually, Ålesund dialect, that's where I first moved to when I moved to Norway. And Ålesund dialect is pretty similar to Bergen, except it has a lot of rolled R's. So yeah, they're kind of made fun of a little bit for that, I think. I don't know. But it's really pretty. Then we go up to Trondheim. Trondheim. Is that right? Is that how you say it? Trondheim. Trondheim is, they tend to cut their words in half. So they'll leave off the endings of verbs, or they'll leave off, just the endings of words in general. and they also tend to speak very fast, just very fast. Whereas down here in Ålesund, they kind of talk a little bit slower, like they pronounce everything in there. Oslo speaks very fast as well, but they're like kind of like New Yorkers, like they just like, you know, they're busy and they just gotta like talk really fast and stuff. And then Trøndersk, they also speak pretty fast, but it might just sound like that just because half the time you don't understand what they're saying, so it's like, ooh, okay, slow down there, bud, like what is that? So yeah, that's Trøndersk. And then moving up the country, you kind of move into these very special dialects, the Northern Norwegian, which I think is gorgeous. I love that. And they have a different tonefall. So tonefall is actually something, that's what we're talking about when we talk about the Norwegian going up and down in their speech pattern. Right, Oslo is very much up and down. The west coast is kind of in the middle. Ålesund is very monotone, kind of. Trøndersk, I can't remember. I think it's pretty much normal. But then when we go up to northern Norway, they start having this opposite tonefall from southern Norway. So they tend to talk kind of like cowboys in a way. I don't know. They're kind of their own type of Norwegian, and you have to adjust between dialects. You kind of have to tune your ear to them because there's so many and they're so different. But yeah, so. Yep, that's dialects in Norway. And I love that there are so many and that you can hear so many different cultures, because I think the dialects kind of reflect the culture of each city in a way. And yeah, I think each one is just beautiful in its own way. So, and then you also have all these other places on this kind of close to Sweden. And I haven't really been over that way, but I've heard that they also speak pretty close to Swedish. They kind of influenced by the little rhythms in Swedish and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'd say my personal favorite dialect is Tromsø. It is so beautiful. It is so beautiful.